Welcome to the Lazy CEO Podcast, where Jim Schleckser, author of Great CEOs Are Lazy and founder of the CEO Project, features compelling experts and topics for CEOs of mid to large-size companies. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Lazy CEO podcast. My name is Jim Schleckser. I am your host and the founder of the CEO Project. Well, today we're going to do a podcast that's a little gestalt, actually, if you think about it, which is a podcast talking about podcasts. So that'll be fun. But we have an amazing guest who can really help us frame this as business owners. You know, you probably all listen to podcasts and you may have thought about, is this an element that I might want to be thinking about in terms of my marketing mix or my presence or my branding or whatever? But we have Nicole Grinnel. She's a two-time business owner. She founded Mic'd Up Booking based on her firsthand experience of the transformative power of podcasting. She has a family history of entrepreneurship, and of course, she grabbed the reins of that quickly. She's had pretty successful entrepreneurial journey, both in Mic'd Up Booking and another company called Boseman Solutions. She has two teenagers and runs a significant amount of revenue, which is, for anybody who's done either of those things, realize that that dive has a very high degree of difficulty. So welcome, Nicole. We're so glad you joined us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Glad to be here. And hello to everybody joining.
Yeah, nice. Well, so talk to us a little bit about how you became exposed to the idea of podcasting. And are you going to tell me you were like one of those people that did it 10 years ago before anybody knew what it was, or tell me your journey into podcasting and understanding it?
I am going to tell you that I am one of those people, but I will not.
And you bought Bitcoin at 200. I know you're that
I bought
person.
Bitcoin at the right time too. Yeah. But I didn't come up with the idea. But what I will tell you is about 8 years ago, through our talent staffing agency, we were working with a lot of small business owners. And one business owner happened to say to me, you know, I feel like when I get my story out there, or I have time to connect with my audience or potential clients, like it's an easy close. People get it. They know I have a need, but like, how do I do that on a larger scale was really kind of his ask. And he said, you know, what about podcasts? And this was circa 8 years ago, right? So it was a thing, but it really wasn't a thing like we see it now. And, you know, me being an executive assistant in my background, I was like, you know what, we can do that. We're going to get you on a podcast. And that's really where it started. And then it really snowballed into seeing his success. And what that did, he was in the real estate space, and it really helped amplify his brand with bringing investors to him. People were bringing deals to him. So we kind of watched his journey from the sidelines and then realized, okay, we need to do this ourselves, and then tried that route and then realized, okay, this is a need actually that a lot of people could benefit from. And that's what really catapulted us into Mic'd Up.
Got it. Interesting. And does it work for any kind of company? I mean, are there companies that benefit more than others, or is your view like it's like soup is good food, podcasts are good for everyone? What's your view on this?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that anybody that's trying to establish themselves as a thought leader, as an industry expert, we've seen companies that are, you know, $5-10 million companies that really want to just kind of establish more what their culture is and want to talk about their why and have kind of some PR avenues in that. So maybe they're not utilizing it to necessarily attract a direct customer, but they want to have more out there on who they are as a company. So, you know, just like you see in podcasting, there's a podcast listener for everyone. There's a podcast host for everyone. I really think it goes the same towards guesting. It's just the motivation that you have behind it.
Got it. Now, are you helping people create their own podcasts, or helping executives and whatnot get onto podcasts?
We actually do both. So on the hosting side, we're more of that support service. So as I'm sure you know, post-production is this whole other job, right? And making sure to promote that show. So we help with that. But our primary goal is really to get other individuals on guests, on as guests, and really in the appropriate audience. So there are other companies that kind of, you know, spray and pray, and you get on something that has nothing to do with what you're hoping to attract. So we want to really be sure that we are nurturing and getting you the right audience first. But that's really our bread and butter.
So how do you find them? I mean, there's 3 bajillion podcasts last time I counted.
Right.
How do I figure out which ones actually have impact, which ones have the right audience, which ones are, where I really want to put my bullseye message versus my spray and pray message? How do you figure that out?
Yeah, so the first step we do with our clients is really to sit down and have that discovery call of who are you hoping to get in front of.
Mhm.
And we kind of give them this space to be creative with that. So I'll tell you from mine, I've been on shows that are about entrepreneurs that give back, women leaders, talent. So you really start to build, a holistic picture of who you are and your why, and start to go on shows as that. Now, on our side of that, since we have been doing this 8 years, we've got some great relationships, not only with hosts, but groups where hosts are in. But of course, we have the technology side that really allows us to bring in real-time data of the types of shows, make sure it's the right fit, so that our guests are, satisfied with the bookings that they have.
So what tools do you use to figure that out?
Yeah, so there's some, technology that's really almost think like a Zoom info for podcasting. So sales tools types things, but it allows us to really get directly in touch. It's kind of like the hosting side where you're able to see who's hosting, what are their downloads, what's the description, and then we're doing outreach to them. But primarily, honestly, most of our outreach is because of our relationships over the years. The podcast community is a really cool community, and so we really value those relationships. Because honestly, our job too is to make sure our hosts are satisfied, right? And they will reach out actively to us to say, hey, I need a guy in this type of space. Do you have somebody? And we're able to bring them that individual.
Yeah. So I'm going to press on this. What's the name of the tool?
We actually have a couple. So one of them is a tool called Podmatch. Another one is called oh, hang on. I'm thinking of it. I can see, be honest, I'm not in the day-to-day. I'm not the one doing the matching, but there's some other tools. I think one's called Matchmaker with a K. And basically what they're doing is they're giving the analytics. So they're giving the information that we pay subscriptions to obviously be able to reach out to those hosts. But most of our bookings come through spaces where hosts are landing, and we build relationships in those. So think like a coaching group. So all these hosts are landing in a podcast coaching group and we're building relationships with them.
Got it. Interesting. So let's say that we found the right podcast for whatever I want to do. Cat owners, God knows what. And how do you coach somebody to give great podcasts, right? So as somebody going on who maybe is not completely comfortable with this or never has done it, what are your 2 or 3 super good pieces of advice to somebody do these things and you'll give a great podcast? What does that look like for you?
So first and foremost, most of our clients come and they think that this is going to be a commercial, right? And so we constantly are saying this is not a commercial, it's a connection. Yeah. Tell your story, tell your why, who are you serving, what's the motivation behind that? So we're really big on that. This is not an infomercial space. And a lot of people come in with that and they're like, hey, I didn't get to talk about my product. And we're like, that's not what this is. So we really try to make that clear to them. And then we talk about our own experiences. I mean, shows that I did 8 years ago, heavens, I sound just incredibly crazy and stiff and rigid. So we try to coach them on be comfortable. This is just a conversation. You're really getting to know them. Think that you are sitting down with your listeners with a cup of coffee and you're talking about your story. That's what this is. So we really want them to feel relaxed. Another hurdle we see is what do I have to say? Who am I? Everybody has a story. I mean, if you are a business owner, you have been and seen some things. And so you being able to really expand and educate others, give that knowledge that you've seen, everyone can glean nuggets from that. So we try to just kind of build up confidence, make sure they understand what they are supposed to talk about. And then we also prep our guests. So as you know, every show is wildly different. I'm going to be honest. I was on a show yesterday that the intro was I was playing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Never done anything like that. So it was kind of like an icebreaker for the guests and the hosts. And it was cute. But so we want our guests to feel prepared to understand, is this more of a fun, friendly environment? Are we going to be more talking strategic business so that they come prepared and can be of value to that show?
Got it. You know, some of the people that we bring on actually will send us a list of possible topics, right? So they'll actually prime the pump for the host. Hey, there's 3 or 4 things that might be interesting to talk about. And so they've got storylines that the podcast person be getting on it. You could be asked about this, and let's just prep out that story a little bit, not overly engineer it, but enough so that you're fluid in the conversation. I've found that to be, that helps the guests, right? And it actually helps the host too, because they know what questions to ask.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some hosts are like, hey, have them come in blind. It's going to be rapid fire. Others are like, hey, this is my standard ending question. I need them to be prepared to answer. So our job is really just to prep our guests so that no one shows up unprepared and not bringing value, because that's really the goal.
Got it. So let's say you lay it down, you did a great job, and the podcast is amazing, and they begin to put it out. How should you think as the guest of, okay, what can I do with that? How can I use that collateral that has then been created? Or do I go, I'm now dependent on what they do with it? Or is there a way you can leverage it as well as they leverage it? I mean, how do they think sort of post, okay, it exists now. Now what do we do?
Yeah. So here's the cool thing. Once I started doing this is I was like, okay, this is hitting on so many fronts that business owners need. It's networking. It was building my online presence, my SEO. We were linking all my shows back to our website in a blog format. And then they were creating all this content for me to repurpose. So post show, your show is giving you YouTube clips, Instagram posts, whatever that articles that they're doing, show notes. So I was taking that, and with my team and what we do at Mike Deb, we were repurposing all of that. So now we were saying, hey, listen to Nicole on this podcast. It's all about 10 ways that business owners can delegate. And that was going to a newsletter to our entire email list.
Right.
We were clipping that up into not only social media, but clips that I could have for my sales process. So now if I was on with somebody that really couldn't understand, how a virtual assistant could even be a thing, I was like, hey, by the way, I know we talked about this. Take a listen to this show that I was on. We talked about everything that a VA can do for you. You might, listen at your own time. It was giving my sales prospects now control over that, providing credibility and validity to who I was. And so it's one of those moments where you look around and you're like, this is like everything a business owner needs. It's
right
in one place. And for a very low time commitment, because I was really just showing up for the 30-minute show, and then the show was doing the rest for me. So like I said before we started, I feel like this is like the best unkept secret that I'm so on fire to let business owners know about.
Very cool. Yeah, and we've seen people that are better and worse at that, at clipping it up and using it for their purposes, which means you can use it for your purpose. So some are better than others, but you can always do it on your own, right? I mean, if they don't do it, you do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And most shows, especially the ones that we're going to be booking on, they have to be promoting shows. So we want to make sure that we're getting on people on space that is going to provide that content. And we also coach our clients on what to do with that, because sometimes we'll see people say, yeah, I did a podcast once, nothing came of it. Those don't work. And we're like, you clearly did not take advantage of all the aspects that this gives. So yeah.
Interesting. I usually tell guests, I go, if you say something smart, just feel free to grab it and use it, right? So you're going to say something great in 30 minutes, I imagine. So let's use that. Yeah. So just carrying on with that line of thinking, how promiscuous should you be with podcasts? In other words, some people, particularly if they're visible at some level, get 2-3 requests a week to be on a podcast. Should you all comers, 1 a week, 5 a week? Like, what should your goal be? Or you're probably gonna tell me it depends, but like what should your goal be in terms of how frequently, how much of this should I do?
That's a great question, because typically people ask, like, how many am I going to be filming? So, I mean, first is obviously your time and what that looks like. For me, my cadence is I like to do about 1 to 2 a week max. Okay. I find any more than that, not only is it disrupting just business, but I'm kind of overhearing myself talk, honestly. So I want to come to the audience fresh. I want to be excited to bring new ideas. And if I've been back to back to back on shows, like, you're going to be burnout. So, but, a lot of people, like, we work with a lot of authors, and they're like, hey, I'm doing a book launch. I need to do a lot of press. And so that's going to be, a little bit more stacked. So really depends on your own cadence. If you love talking, then this is a great way to book yourself out in it. But so yeah, I would say it depends. But for the average business owner, 1 to 2 a week, I feel does the job and it's going to keep you in a good rhythm and have consistent content dropping on your behalf.
So, it reminds me of these actors that are launching a movie, and then they're doing video interviews with different television stations, and
I feel for them.
Hello, Cleveland, and then they do their shtick. 30 seconds later, hi, Chicago, and then they do their shtick, and oh my gosh, just mind numbing, right?
Mind numbing. And I've seen some where they kind of get to the bloopers end where they're just over it, right? And I'm like, I could see getting to that point where you're like, you know what? Here's the website, sign up if that sounds good. So you want to be fresh and bring value to your audience.
Yeah, no doubt. So when do you think about, let's say you've done some number of podcasts, seems like you're getting some motion on it. When do you think about potentially doing your own podcast, or does that solve a different problem? Is it a maturity model where I go from one to the other, or is it, no, Jim, they solve different problems. So it depends on how do we think about doing them versus having one?
Totally. That's such a good question. So the layman's terms I always say is like, really what you need to think of it is like, what's easier and where are you at different stages when you're having someone over? Is it easier to come in and someone's made dinner and they're the host and it's all about you? Or is it easier to be the one cooking, cleaning up the kitchen, making sure everybody feels entertained and loving on everyone, right? Both equally fulfilling, but different experiences, right? So for hosts, I really see those as people that have the time and space that they want to bring value to others. A lot of hosts we see, they're to that give back stage in business, right? They've done it. They have more time on their hands. They have availability. They want to connect others. They want to share their own knowledge. That's a great space. If you are just starting a business, now is not the time to be a host. I mean, it is a real job. It is a job to find guests, find quality guests, produce the show, promote the show. So it really just depends on what stage you're in. Now, in the guesting space, this is an awesome time for entrepreneurs, people starting out. Maybe you're 3 to 5 years in, or you even find, okay, well, now I want to give back, but I don't want to take on the commitment of hosting, but I'd love to share my knowledge and build networks that way. So it really is a personal preference on where you are in life. I would not recommend it for people just starting out. But I do think that when you are to that space, I mean, I definitely have that in my foresight, I should say, of something to do, but when that time arrives.
Got it. Now, are they equally effective at promoting your brand, your business, what you do, and building connection?
I think so. But again, back to the dinner model, right? It's like when you're the guest, it is all about you. So the promotion is going to be on you. When you're the host, you're more kind of the subject matter expert. So yes, you are establishing yourself as a brand, but really the show is not going to be about you. You are not going to be telling your story. You're just going to be facilitating a conversation with someone else. So both establish things, but again, I think it's based on stages of where you're at.
Got it. Interesting. Now, do you help people do podcasts if they want to do one, if they want to build their own?
Yeah, so we don't do like necessarily all the upfront tech and helping getting you launched and all that, but we really more focus in post-production. So social media, show notes, all of that type of thing is what we support our hosts on.
Got it. Okay. But it's not that hard to do it. I mean, buy a high quality mic, get on Zoom, obviously need a little post work on it to clean it up, but fundamentally it's not, you do it in your jammies pretty close.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's not something that's going to be, high ticket to start or anything like that. But sometimes people will come to us, no clue of the world, and want us to like launch this for them. That's not our bread and butter. We're really more, if you're to the place of starting it, we can help support it.
Got it. Now, are there people that will help you do that? Like podcast in a box kind of services?
Yeah, and that's actually a lot of the relationships we have. So we have some great relationships. Josh Elledge is a one where you can kind of come to him with an idea and he is going to get that up and running for you. But what we serve with Josh is kind of that post-production and also working with those hosts to know who they want to attract.
Got it. Interesting.
Yeah.
And so that might be, the busy CEO answer. Go find somebody who will help with a podcast in a box. I've got an idea. I want to show up, just do my thing and then be done with it weekly and minimize their time, but maximize their impact with help sort of surrounding them. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's say you do a podcast. How do you know it's doing well? What's good look like if you have your own podcast? And then on the other side, let's say, what's good if you do podcasts for other people, with other people?
So I probably can really speak more to the guesting side, because the analytics side can get a little crazy with the host side. But from the guesting side and from my own experience, we really walk our clients through kind of like a process post show. So biggest thing we talk about is green room ROI. So you've just gotten to essentially tell your entire story, who you serve, why you do it to someone with an active audience, not only the host, but the listeners, right? And so in that green room ROI, that's where you kind of, when the recording lights off, you talk with that host and say, hey, who are you looking to serve? Who could I bring to you? And also, now that you've heard my story, is there anyone in your network that you think I could help bring talent to?
Right.
Anybody that I resonated with. And so that's really where those relationships start to build. I additionally follow up with my host really on a monthly, sometimes quarterly basis to say, hey, I bet you've had some great guests. Anybody that you think I should get in touch with or listen to this show? So it's like any relationship, you're building that and it's starting to build your network. I can't tell you how many referrals I've gotten just from hosts, and networks that have been established with that. So the goal is really to start not only marketing your brand, establishing you as that expert, we're really building other pipelines and networks that you could not have tapped into on your own. You really couldn't have.
Interesting. And that is probably where a lot of people fall off, is they don't do that follow up with the host.
They
And
don't
because
do follow-up.
right. No, that's really
It's just
interesting.
like going to a networking meeting and you come home with a stack of cards and you don't do anything with it, right? It's like, well, I don't know, networking doesn't work.
I
Well, did
use
you
them as
call them? Yeah.
I use them as drink coasters, So no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, you're right. You put the time in, don't waste the investment that you've made, right?
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. So you talked a little bit about talent. Let's sort of help, and I know that's a big area of interest of yours, is bringing the right talent into a business to help it grow. Is podcasting an element of that strategy, or or how do you think about that talent acquisition piece within the business? And can this help that?
Can podcasting help the talent acquisition business? Oh,
No. If I'm trying to find great people to bring into my business, yes.
oh, yes. So that's where we've done a lot with companies that are looking to really expand their presence and their company culture. So we have one company that actually has 4 people within their organization that do podcasts, all
Wow.
on different spaces. Some is, I know, some is company culture, some is on kind of the IT side and showing the technology that their company brings. So absolutely, because the reality, and I can say this from the talent side, we are in a seller's market with talent. And so you need to use anything that you can to attract the people that are coming into the talent pool. They're not looking at the 401k benefits. They want to know, what's your purpose? What's the why? What's your culture like? What is your give back program? So the more you can be doing to showcase you and your company in those spaces, the better. Even with our talent company, when we are posting a role, it is all about marketing that company for who they are.
Right.
Honestly, the job description is getting smaller and smaller. It's truly like, here's why you want to come work for them. So podcasting is a great avenue for companies to get that message out.
So what are the messages that are resonating on that space? In other words, if I'm trying to either go on podcasts or even do my own with a view towards bringing people into my organization, what would be some themes or focus areas that I would want to think about? What do you see working?
So for sure, your culture, your why, any type of give back. And I can tell you, I've done some give back shows that have been my biggest sales generators, honestly. People want to understand that and they really get connected with that. And then really talk about, what you're doing for your employees, what's important. So things along those lines are going to be hybrid options, how you support them in training and develop, mental health awareness, just overall wellness and whole being of their employees. So anything in those spaces that start to then go, okay, this is important to me as a candidate, and I like that they are focused on this, and I like that this is important to them. That's going to attract the talent.
Got it. Interesting. And I read one of the books I like in this space is Daniel Pink's book called Drive. And he talks about why people come and work for you, and money's really, that means some people, sure, but it's a small percentage, right? That's the primary reason to come. He talks about autonomy, purpose, and mastery, right? So if you can talk about how we build the backyard and let you do what you have to within the backyard, people love that. Purpose, we have a higher purpose here, right? Where whatever that might be, and mastery, particularly I think for the IT people, you have an ability to become truly masterful at your craft, learn new languages, do cool leading edge stuff. That has this attractive force for employees, I think. So those are some themes we've seen work in trying to attract quality people.
I mean, it's true. My husband and I actually had some young people from our church over on Sunday night, and we got talking about jobs and roles. And of course, we're 20 plus years in our career. They're starting out. And, we kind of had this like impromptu roundtable of just like, what motivates you? Like the motivations could not be further from anything that my husband and I ever thought of at 25 years old, So it's a different world in the talent that's coming up, and you can either get on the boat and let them know, hey, this is what we are looking to, or you are going to be paddling that boat alone for a long time because they're just demanding different things.
So you should have
recorded a lot of it, honestly. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say there was a lot of it, honestly. I know typically we always say like, oh, the young people now, but my husband and I looked away and we were like, there's some real value in that. I mean, they're prioritizing different things. They're prioritizing, values, time that we may not have necessarily done, right? Because we were kind of in the direction of head down, get a job, retire at 65, and they're just not looking at it that way.
Interesting. Boy, you should have recorded that conversation. That would have made an amazing
podcast,
I feel like
right? I feel like it would be a weird dinner party to say, and now I'm going to record us.
Yeah, let me just drop a microphone in the middle of the table, pretend it doesn't exist. Yeah. But like what gems it sounds like you got, right? Really useful stuff. So that's fascinating. Yeah, I had a conversation like that with my son. He got options, stock options at the place he went to with a vesting period. And I said, well, geez, that could be worth a fair amount of money. He goes, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to be there anyway. Like there's no permanence to a job for his generation at all. So all baby boomers that are looking for loyalty left the room a long time with Elvis. It's gone, right? Yeah.
It really did.
So what, just thinking around, both either hosting or participating, what would be your best advice for your one best or two best pieces of advice for a CEO entrepreneur who's thinking about getting involved and dipping their toe in? What would be your best couple of pieces of advice?
Yeah, I think, really back to the stages, if you're still in the stage of building and your role is part of building your business, whether that's through sales, whether that's through recognition, brand recognition, anything like that, guesting is probably going to be your best bet.
Right.
If you were to this stage where, hey, business is great, I'm really very high level at this point, I really want to serve as that ambassador, hosting is a great option. You are in that space to give back. You'll still meet connections and build your network through hosting, but you really have to be in that space that I'm not looking to drive business out of this. I'm really just hoping to build my network, connect people, educate, bring value, and along the way, establish who I am. So I think it really depends on your stage of life, of business, and just goals that you have. Both are great options. And I'm a big believer in podcasting.
Got it. Awesome. I'd probably say just get on a few podcasts and see what happens. I don't care if it's the crazy Catwoman, just do one to get the feeling for it, right? And then we can slowly refine audience, refine technique, and get you more on point. But just jump in, try it, right?
Absolutely. And we really designed it. It was like, hey, what's a low price point that you can dip your toe in, right? It's not a huge commitment. Try out a few shows, see how that's working, repurpose the content, and see if this feels like a good fit for you.
Awesome. So Nicole, what do you do for fun?
Ooh, I'm kind of silly. I got to be honest. So I love a good time. So when I'm off of business, it's like we love to just laugh, and we travel a lot. We go to Montana every summer. That's one of our favorite places.
Nice.
So we're a real work hard, play hard family. Everybody down to the kids works. But we love to take our time and really spend it with each other and just enjoy each other's company.
Fabulous. That's fun. I finally got to Montana. I've been to I'd been to 46 states. Montana was one I had. Yeah, now I'm at 47. Thank you. I've been to Montana and it's spectacular. So I get why you love it up there. I get why you love it.
It's funny because I grew up in Lake Tahoe. And so Montana was always like, yeah, we'll try it. But, I've been to the mountain. It's different world. Both beautiful, but it's a different experience. So encourage everybody to get out there at least once.
Like a lot of other Western states, though, they've got a lot of immigration from people, a lot of Californians, frankly. And,
I know.
So the locals have mixed views on that. Maybe not so mixed. Maybe not so mixed.
We landed in Bozeman. We've been doing this for 5 years, and we landed in Bozeman last year, and we were like, this looks like LA. What's happening? So it's caught on for sure.
Yeah. Well, you know what the locals call it now? They call it
what's that?
Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is. I kind of hate it, but we go to a little area outside of it. It's called Paradise Valley, and it's kind of like a ranching community. So it's kind of stayed away from that from now, but yeah. Every good thing gets discovered, right?
Yeah, the thundering herd is coming. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Nicole, this was fabulous. I really appreciate you taking the time. It was enjoyable. You gave us a lot of knowledge and a lot of value, and I really wish you good luck going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was great meeting you guys, and thank you for those that tuned in and listened, and really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. This podcast is brought to you by the CEO Project. At the CEO Project, we work with CEOs to help them grow their business. And our members represent billions of dollars of revenue and profit. And frankly, amongst all of us, we've probably made every mistake in the book, including some you haven't made yet. So if you want to learn from the experience of a bunch of really seasoned CEOs, we're a great place to hang out. In this podcast, what you're going to hear are some of those ideas, concepts, and things that are just going to help you on your journey. If you want to find out more, reach out to us at theceoproject.com, or you can contact me personally at jim@theceoproject.com. Happy listening.
Thanks for listening to the Lazy CEO podcast. We'll see you next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes, and check out our website, www.theceoproject.com.